Have you ever looked at someone who seems impossible to break and wondered what they know that you do? Not richer, not luckier, not more talented, just calmer under pressure, more disciplined when no one is watching, stronger when life turns ugly. Some people move through chaos like it's rain. Others drown in a puddle. The difference is rarely intelligence. It is habit. Some people are not losing because they are weak. They are losing because they are scattered. Their attention is scattered. Their energy is scattered. Their standards are scattered. Their days begin without direction and end without meaning. And then they wonder why life feels heavy, why they are always tired, why they never feel fully in control, why they keep starting over, why discipline feels like something other people have, but they don't. But here is the truth. Your life is not destroyed in one dramatic moment. It is shaped quietly by what you do every day. Not once a month. Not when motivation shows up. Not when life becomes convenient. Every day. Because daily habits are not small things. They are votes. Votes for the person you are becoming. Every morning you either vote for clarity or chaos. Every afternoon you either vote for strength or softness. Every evening you either vote for growth or regret. And eventually, those votes become a personality. Then a lifestyle. Then a destiny. The Stoics understood this better than most people do today. They knew that a powerful life is not built on hype. Not on emotional speeches. Not on waiting for the right mood. It is built on what you repeatedly do when no one is watching. That is why some people look unstoppable. Not because they never feel fear. Not because they never feel lazy. Not because life is easier for them. But because their habits have become stronger than their excuses. And if you can build that, you become dangerous in the best possible way. You become calm in chaos, focused in distraction, disciplined in temptation, steady when others collapse. In this video, we are going through 10 life-changing daily habits rooted in Stoic wisdom. Habits that can sharpen your mind, strengthen your character, and make you nearly impossible to break. Not overnight, but if you work on them every day, you will not stay the same. And by the end of this video, you may realize something uncomfortable. The life you want may not require more talent. It may require better daily habits. So let's begin. Habit 1. Win the first battle of the day. Before the world touches your mind, you must decide who owns it. This is where most people lose. Not at noons. Not in some huge crisis. They lose in the first 10 minutes of the day. The alarm rings. They hesitate. They scroll. They negotiate. They let random thoughts, random notifications, random moods invade the morning before they have even stood up. And just like that, the day begins in surrender. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself in the morning because he knew something most people ignore. The first battle is internal. Before you deal with difficult people, before you deal with pressure, before you deal with responsibilities, you must deal with yourself. The version of you that wants comfort. The version that says 5 more minutes. The version that whispers, you can start later. That voice sounds harmless. It is. Because every time you obey it, you teach your mind a lesson. You teach it that your standards are flexible. That your promises are optional. That comfort gets the final say. And once that pattern starts early, it spreads everywhere. You delay the workout, then the work, then the difficult call, then the uncomfortable decision, then the future itself. So the first daily habit is simple, but brutal. Win the morning on purpose. Wake up when you said you would. Sit up immediately. Do not lie there making emotional arguments. Do not let your bed become a negotiation table. Stand up. That first act matters more than it seems. Because now you are no longer beginning the day by obeying comfort. You are beginning it by obeying intention. And that changes the tone of everything. You do not need a perfect morning routine. You do not need to meditate on a mountain. You do not need some influencer's ritual with lemon water and 12 supplements. You need one thing: an intentional first move. Make your bed. Drink water. Step into silence. Read one page of wisdom. Move your body. Stand in stillness before the world starts pulling at you. The point is not aesthetic. The point is authority. When you win the first battle, you remind yourself, I lead this day, my impulses do not. Think about how much suffering comes from starting weak, from starting reactive, from starting half awake emotionally, from starting already behind. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine becoming the kind of person whose day begins with command. Not noise, not confusion, not drifting. Command. That alone can change a life. Because a strong morning does not guarantee a perfect day. But a weak morning almost always makes discipline harder. So tomorrow morning, when the old voice says, stay down, start later, it doesn't matter. Answer it with action. Not anger, not drama. Action. Get up. And let the day know it is not dealing with the old you anymore. Habit 2, do something hard on purpose. Most people spend their lives trying to make everything easier. Easier mornings. Easier work. Easier emotions. Easier conversations. Easier paths. And then they wonder why they become easier to break. Here is the Stoic truth. If you avoid hardship daily, hardship will dominate you eventually. Because life does not care about your preferences. Difficulty will come. Pain will come. Fatigue will come. Disappointment will come. Loss will come. And if your nervous system has been trained only in comfort, reality will feel like an attack. This is why the Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort. Not because suffering is glamorous. Not because pain makes you morally superior. But because comfort can make you weak without announcing itself. A cold shower. A hard workout. An uncomfortable conversation. Silence instead of stimulation. Saying no to an unnecessary craving. Finishing a difficult task without reward. These are not random acts. They are daily rehearsals for resilience. Epictetus understood that if you cannot deny yourself small pleasures, you will not be able to stand firm in larger storms. And that is the deeper lesson. Daily hardship is not punishment. It is training. You are teaching yourself not to panic when things feel unpleasant. You are teaching your body and mind, discomfort is not danger. That one lesson can save you from a lifetime of weakness. Because look at how many people are ruled by immediate feelings. If it feels boring, they stop. If it feels hard, they avoid it. If it feels awkward, they delay it. If it feels emotionally heavy, they escape it. They are not living by principle. They are living by sensation. And sensation is a terrible master. So every day, choose one thing that makes you stronger simply because it is not easy. Take the stairs. Finish the last rep. Sit with your thoughts instead of running to your phone. Speak the truth you have been avoiding. Work in silence. Eat with restraint. Stay disciplined when no reward is in sight. That is where inner power begins. Not in dramatic moments. In repeated friction. Steel is not formed in comfort. Neither is character. And no, you do not need to become extreme. This is not about turning yourself into a machine. It is about becoming less fragile. There is a difference. A fragile person needs everything to go right to function. A strong person functions even when life refuses to cooperate. So ask yourself this: what daily discomfort am I still avoiding that could actually free me? Because often the pain you avoid today becomes the prison you live in tomorrow. Do something hard on purpose, and slowly your threshold rises. What once felt impossible becomes normal. What once intimidated you becomes manageable. What once broke your focus no longer has the same power. That is how unstoppable people are built. Not through comfort, through practice discomfort. Habit 3. Guard your mind from useless noise. Not every threat in your life looks like danger. Some threats look like entertainment. Some look like gossip. Some look like scrolling. Some look like constant updates, endless opinions, background noise, pointless debates, and a mind that is never allowed to be alone. This is one of the great silent tragedies of the modern world. People are overstimulated and underdeveloped. They consume all day, but reflect very little. They hear everything, but understand almost nothing. They are mentally full and spiritually empty. The Stoics were obsessed with protecting the inner world. Why? Because they knew that whatever enters your mind repeatedly begins shaping your character. If your mind is constantly fed outrage, vanity, comparison, distraction, and noise, you should not be surprised when peace becomes difficult. You cannot think clearly in a crowded mental room. And most people have no mental boundaries at all. The moment they wake up, they let strangers into their consciousness. They let headlines dictate their mood. They let algorithms train their attention. They let people who do not even know them influence their emotions. Then they say they feel unfocused. Of course they do. Their mind is not a temple. It is a public hallway. So one life-changing daily habit is this: become selective about what enters your mind. Not once in a while. Every day. Protect your attention like it is your future, because it is. You do not need to know everything. You do not need to react to everything. You do not need to consume every opinion, every trend, every controversy, every piece of content fighting for your nervous system. Some information does not inform you. It infects you. Seneca warned against crowds not because people are evil, but because minds are contagious. Spend enough time around chaos, and chaos starts sounding normal. Spend enough time around mediocrity, and high standards start feeling extreme. Spend enough time around distraction, and stillness starts feeling unbearable. So create mental discipline. Read things that sharpen you. Listen to people who deepen you. Step away from things that cheapen your focus. Spend time in silence every day, even if only for a few minutes. Silence is not empty. It is diagnostic. It shows you what your mind has become when the noise stops. And many people avoid silence for that reason. Because silence reveals the mess. But that is precisely why you need it. You cannot clean a room while music, people, smoke, and dust are flying everywhere. You need stillness to see clearly. Same with the mind. And once you begin guarding your attention, something powerful happens. Your reactions slow down. Your thoughts become less frantic. Your standards become more visible. Your emotional life becomes less manipulated. You stop living from the outside in and start living from the inside out. That is rare now, and rare is powerful. So protect your mind, not because the world is always evil, but because your inner life is too valuable to leave unguarded. Habit 4. Do the important thing before you feel ready. This habit alone can separate you from 90% of people. Because most people do not delay because they are incapable. They delay because they are waiting for emotional alignment. They want to feel clear first, motivated first, confident first, inspired first. So they wait, and wait, and wait, and meanwhile life keeps moving. This is one of the greatest lies your mind will ever tell you. You'll do it better later. Maybe, but maybe later is just another word for fear. The Stoics understood duty. They did not ask, "Do I feel ready?" They asked, "What must be done?" That is a completely different way to live. Because readiness is often a myth. Confidence usually comes after action. Clarity often comes through action. Momentum is born from action, not from waiting in a room with your doubts. So each day, do the important thing before your emotions can complicate it. Write the page, make the call, send the email, begin the workout, study the chapter, open the project, start the hard conversation. You do not need the whole mountain. You need the first step. And here is the deeper reason this habit matters. Every time you act before you feel ready, you weaken the rule of fear. You show yourself that uncertainty is survivable. That hesitation is not wisdom. That discomfort at the beginning is normal. That resistance is often just the tax you pay to enter a better life. Imagine how different your future would look if, every single day, you did the thing you have been avoiding first. Not perfectly, not dramatically, just honestly. People think unstoppable people have less resistance. Often they don't. They just stop treating resistance like a verdict. They treat it like weather. It's there. Fine. Move anyway. This is where self-respect grows. Not when you fantasize. Not when you plan beautifully. Not when you tell people what you are going to do. When you begin. Especially while afraid. Especially while uncertain. Especially while not in the mood. And yes, the beginning is ugly sometimes. It is awkward, clumsy, messy, humbling. Good. That means it is real. A lot of people stay trapped because they are addicted to polished beginnings. But real transformation usually begins in imperfection. The writer begins with a bad page. The runner begins out of breath. The disciplined person begins while still feeling weak. That does not disqualify you. That qualifies you. Because the person who acts before they feel ready is no longer waiting for life to carry them. They are carrying themselves. So each morning, ask yourself one question. What is the one thing I would rather avoid, but know would move my life forward if I did it now? Then do that first. Not because it feels good, because it matters. Habit 5, keep one promise to yourself every day. One of the saddest things a person can lose is trust in themselves. Not trust in the world. Not trust in other people. Trust in themselves. To say, I'll do it, and know they mean it. To make a commitment, and not immediately begin searching for a loophole. To set a standard, and not betray it when emotion shifts. This is not a small thing. A person who cannot trust themselves lives in quiet instability. They make plans but doubt execution. They dream but secretly suspect collapse. They want change but do not believe their own word anymore. That creates a deep kind of exhaustion. Because now every goal feels heavier. Not because the goal is impossible, but because the relationship with the self has been damaged. The Stoics valued integrity because integrity is internal order. Mind, word, action aligned. And that alignment is power. So build it daily. Keep at least one promise to yourself every single day. A real one. Not vague. Not symbolic. Concrete. I will walk for 20 minutes. I will not check my phone for the first hour. I will read 10 pages. I will train today. I will finish this task before dinner. I will speak calmly in that conversation. I will not lie to myself tonight. Then do it. And when you do, something subtle but life-changing begins to happen. Your self-image shifts. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is always trying, and start seeing yourself as someone who follows through. That matters more than motivation ever will. Because motivation is unstable, but identity compounds. Once the mind starts believing, I am a person who keeps my word, discipline becomes less emotional. It starts becoming normal. And before you say, that sounds too simple, understand this. Lives fall apart through repeated self-betrayal. So lives are rebuilt the same way. Through repeated self-honoring. Brick by brick. Promise by promise. Day by day. Do not underestimate the spiritual weight of keeping your own word. When you do, your posture changes. Your inner dialogue changes. Your standards rise. Your excuses lose authority. And on the days when life feels chaotic, this habit becomes even more important. Because sometimes the only thing standing between you and total disorder is one promise kept, one disciplined act, one moment where you refuse to collapse into the old pattern. That is how recovery begins. That is how strength returns. That is how identity is repaired. So if your life feels unstable right now, start here. Do not try to become a new person in one violent burst. Keep one promise today, then one tomorrow, then one the day after that. And slowly, the mind begins trusting the voice inside it again. That voice becomes less theoretical, more solid, more believable. And once you trust yourself, you stop needing so much external hype. Because now you know, if I say I will act, I act. That is the foundation of an unstoppable life. Habit 6. Master your tongue before you master the world. A lot of people want power. Very few want restraint. But the Stoics knew this. If you cannot govern your tongue, you cannot govern your life. Because words are not harmless. Words reveal the condition of the mind. They escalate conflict. They leak insecurity. They expose ego. They turn temporary emotion into permanent damage. How many people sabotage their lives daily because they speak too quickly? They react before reflecting. They defend before understanding. They complain before taking responsibility. They gossip to feel significant. They boast to feel secure. They speak from wounded pride and then call the consequences bad luck. It isn't bad luck. It is undisciplined speech. And one of the most life-changing habits you can build is learning to pause before you speak. Daily, in every environment, at work, at home, in conflict, in temptation, in anger, in success, especially in success, because ego gets loud when it feels validated. Stoicism teaches restraint not because silence is always superior, but because wisdom often speaks less and means more. A disciplined person does not need to fill every silence. They do not need to win every argument. They do not need to explain themselves to everyone. They do not need to broadcast every opinion passing through the mind. That is not weakness. That is control. And control is magnetic. When you master your speech, several things happen. You stop creating unnecessary enemies. You stop feeding emotional fires that should have died quickly. You stop wasting energy on proving yourself. You begin listening more deeply. You begin seeing more clearly. And here is a deeper truth. Many people talk because they are uncomfortable with feeling insignificant. So they interrupt, exaggerate, perform, complain, argue. But strength does not need constant verbal proof. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do in a moment is say less. Not because you are afraid, because you are above the impulse. Imagine how much peace would enter your life if you built this daily habit. Before speaking, ask, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it disciplined? Not pleasant, not clever, not impressive. Disciplined, because not every thought deserves a voice. Not every emotion deserves expression. Not every irritation deserves a response. Sometimes the most powerful sentence is the one you never say. And when you do speak, speak with clarity. Not passive aggression. Not drama. Not emotional fog. Clarity. A calm truth can do more than 10 heated speeches. So today, watch your words. Not obsessively. Honestly. Notice when you speak to impress. Notice when you speak from ego. Notice when you speak just to escape silence. Notice when your mouth runs ahead of your wisdom. Then tighten the standard. Because a person who learns to govern speech begins to govern thought. And a person who governs thought is no longer easily controlled by anger, insecurity, or impulse. That is power. Quiet power. The kind stoicism respects most. Habit 7, remember that time is leaving. Most people live as if life is a rehearsal. As if there will always be another Monday. Another year. Another chance. Another season to become serious. But the Stoics kept one brutal truth close. You are dying. Not someday in an abstract philosophical sense. In real time. This day is being removed from your life forever. This week will never return. This version of your parents will not remain forever. This body will not stay this young. This opportunity will not always wait. And strangely, this is not depressing. It is clarifying. Because when you remember time is limited, trivial things lose some of their power. Petty drama feels smaller. Distraction feels more expensive. Procrastination feels less innocent. You stop saying later so casually. This is why one of the most life-changing daily habits is to remember mortality. Not in a dark, theatrical way. In an honest way. A sober way. A way that restores perspective. Seneca said we do not have a short time to live, but we waste much of it. Look around. How much life is being wasted daily on mindless consumption. On avoidance. On resentment. On trying to look cool. On staying attached to people who drain the soul. On habits that make tomorrow harder. A person who remembers death begins to move differently. Not frantically, but seriously. They stop treating the day like a cheap object. They start asking better questions. If today were precious, how would I speak? How would I work? How would I love? What would I stop postponing? What deserves my attention? What has stolen too much of it already? That is a daily habit worth building. A few minutes of perspective. A few moments where you step back and remember, this life is not endless. And because it is not endless, your habits matter more. Not less. Every lazy excuse costs real time. Every act of courage reclaims real life. Every disciplined day becomes part of the small number of days you actually get. Think about that. You are not spending imaginary time. You are spending your life. That realization can wake a person up faster than motivation ever will. So remember death daily. Let it humble you. Let it focus you. Let it strip the illusion that you can drift forever and still arrive where you want to go. You cannot. No one can. The clock does not pity potential. So become a little more urgent, a little more honest, a little less willing to waste what does not come back. That is not fear. That is maturity. And maturity is one of the faces of strength. Habit 8, refuse to be controlled by your mood. There will be days when you feel powerful, and there will be days when you feel hollow. Days when you are focused. Days when your mind feels foggy. Days when discipline feels natural. Days when the simplest task feels like dragging stone uphill. This is normal. What is dangerous is building your life around those fluctuations. Because if your habits depend on mood, your progress will always be unstable. And unstable effort creates unstable identity. The Stoics understood that emotions are real, but they are not commands. That is a distinction modern people desperately need. You can feel tired and still act wisely. You can feel anxious and still keep your standard. You can feel uninspired and still do your duty. You can feel sad and still move with dignity. Feelings are part of being human. Obedience to every feeling is not. So every day, practice separating emotion from action. This does not mean becoming numb. It means becoming directed. A person ruled by mood is easy to predict. If life feels good, they act strong. If life feels heavy, they disappear. But a person ruled by principle becomes difficult to shake, because they have made a deeper decision. They do not ask all day, "What do I feel like doing?" They ask, "What does this day require from me?" That question is a weapon, because it immediately shifts you from emotion to responsibility. And responsibility stabilizes the soul. There is a quiet dignity in doing what must be done even while your inner world is messy. No applause, no dramatic soundtrack, just maturity. And this is what makes some people seem almost inhuman. Not because they lack emotions, but because they do not let emotions rewrite their values every morning. So build this daily habit. When your mood drops, tighten your standards. Not cruelly, cleanly. Do the basics anyway. Get dressed anyway. Move your body anyway. Handle your task anyway. Stay kind anyway. Stay honest anyway. Stay measured anyway. Why? Because discipline should not disappear the moment life stops flattering you. That is not discipline. That is convenience wearing a nice outfit. And if you want to become unstoppable, you must become less negotiable with your moods. Let them visit. Do not let them lead. Some of your greatest growth will happen on the days when nothing inside you feels heroic. But you act with character anyway. Those are sacred days. They are the days identity is forged. Not when discipline is easy. When it is quiet, difficult, and still chosen. Habit 9, end the day with honest self-review. Most people fear self-examination because they think it will make them feel worse. But usually, what makes people feel worse is unexamined living. Repeating the same mistakes. Missing the same patterns. Blaming the same circumstances. Carrying vague guilt with no correction. Feeling off but never asking why. The Stoics practiced nightly reflection for a reason. They knew a day should not simply be spent. It should be reviewed. Because without reflection, experience does not automatically become wisdom. Sometimes it just becomes repetition. So every night, sit with yourself for a few minutes and ask, where did I act with discipline today? Where did I betray myself? What triggered me? What weakened me? What strengthened me? What am I avoiding? What must improve tomorrow? Do this without self-hatred, but also without excuses. That balance matters, because some people reflect too softly and learn nothing. Others reflect too harshly and create shame instead of growth. Stoic reflection is different. It is firm, clear, constructive, like a wise mentor reviewing the day with you. This daily habit is powerful because it closes the gap between intention and reality. During the day, it is easy to drift. At night, truth returns. You see how you spoke, how you reacted, what you consumed, where you gave in, where you stood tall. And once you see clearly, you can improve precisely. That is how disciplined lives evolve. Not through vague desire, through specific correction. A person who reflects daily does not stay asleep very long. They catch the leak early. They notice the excuse forming. They see the emotional pattern before it hardens into identity. And slowly, they become more deliberate, more honest, more difficult to deceive, especially by themselves. That is one of the rarest strengths a human being can develop. Self-honesty. Because let's be real, many people are not suffering from lack of information. They are suffering from lack of confrontation. They know what is hurting them. They just do not want to face it every day. But once you begin reflecting nightly, the performance starts to die. You stop hiding behind vague words like busy, stressed, confused, or not ready. You begin naming things accurately. And accurate naming leads to accurate change. So tonight, before sleep, do not just escape into distraction. Sit in stillness for a moment. Review your life. Ask difficult questions. Then forgive what must be forgiven, correct what must be corrected, and go to sleep cleaner than you were in the morning. That is how wisdom compounds. Quietly, daily. Habit 10, start again every single day. This may be the habit that holds all the others together. Because no matter how disciplined you become, you will still have imperfect days. Days where you slip. Days where you waste time. Days where your mind feels weak. Days where you break your own standard. Days where the old habits reach for you, and for a moment win. Now here is where most people destroy themselves. Not with the mistake itself, with what happens after it. They miss one day, then decide the streak is broken. They fail once, then call themselves frauds. They lose composure, then spend the whole week unraveling. They turn one bad moment into an identity. This is foolish and deeply costly, because the Stoic does not expect perfection. He expects reality. He expects challenge. He expects fatigue. He expects imperfection. He expects the ongoing work of governing himself. So the final daily habit is this. Start again immediately. Do not romanticize failure. Do not dramatize failure. Do not build a house inside it. Learn, adjust, resume. That ability is priceless. Because in the long run, the strongest people are rarely those who never wobble. They are the ones who recover fast. They do not waste 3 days in guilt over 1 weak hour. They do not need a new month, a new year, or a perfect symbolic moment to begin again. They begin again now. And that now is where lives are saved. Because the dangerous thing about bad days is not the day itself. It is the story you tell after it. I ruined everything. I'm back to who I was. Maybe I'll never change. What's the point? Those stories are more destructive than the mistake. So kill them quickly. You are not your lapse. You are your response to it. That is where character speaks. In the comeback, in the refusal to spiral, in the decision to return to the standard without self-pity. This is one of the most beautiful forms of discipline. Not hard, angry discipline. Steady discipline. Merciless toward excuses. Merciful toward honest effort. Focused on the next right action. And once you build this habit, something changes forever. You stop fearing setbacks so much. Because you know they cannot own you anymore. You know that even if you fall, you have built the reflex to rise. That is freedom. That is resilience. That is what makes a person difficult to stop. Not perfection. Return. Again and again. So here they are. 10 life-changing daily habits that can make you stronger, calmer, clearer, and harder to break. Win the first battle of the day. Do something hard on purpose. Guard your mind from useless noise. Do the important thing before you feel ready. Keep one promise to yourself every day. Master your tongue. Remember that time is leaving. Refuse to be controlled by your mood. End the day with honest self-review. And start again every single day. Now understand something important. None of these habits are flashy. That is why most people ignore them. They want dramatic transformation without daily discipline. They want a new life with old habits. They want confidence without proof. Peace without restraint. Strength without friction. Wisdom without reflection. But life does not work that way. Your future is hidden inside your ordinary days. Inside how you wake up, how you speak, how you think, how you handle discomfort, how you respond to temptation, how you recover after failure. That is where destiny is quietly being built. Not in the fantasy version of your life. In Tuesday morning. In Thursday afternoon. In tonight. In tomorrow. And maybe that is the most uncomfortable truth of all. You do not need to become someone else to change your life. You need to stop abandoning the person you could become every single day. Because the unstoppable person is not always more talented, not always more admired, not always more naturally confident. They are simply more aligned. Their mind says one thing. Their actions agree. Their habits reinforce it. And over time, that alignment creates power. Real power. The kind that does not need to shout. The kind that does not collapse under pressure. The kind that does not depend on applause. So if this message found you at the right moment, do not just admire it. Use it. Pick one habit. Work on it today. Not tomorrow. Not when your mood improves. Not when life becomes easier. Today. And then tomorrow, do it again. Because that is how a human being becomes unstoppable. Not through one huge breakthrough. Through repeated daily acts of self-respect. Until eventually, the life that once felt impossible starts feeling normal. And the person you used to admire from a distance becomes you. If you're ready, begin now.